Welcome back to another edition of Sit Down Saturday, and today we are going to be talking about the increase in prices. We're seeing it all across the board, right? We're seeing it with Fans Toys, we're seeing it with X-Transbots, we're seeing it with Hasbro stuff. There's emails that just went out this week from a lot of distributors saying that Hasbro's raising the price on everything. It's happening across the board. The question is why? And some of this is going to be factual, and some of it is going to be speculative, and most of it is going to be some sort of 70-30 split of the two, with factual being on the 70 side. I gotta give a shout out to Scott M., same dude that sent me the Takara Starscream. He's a bit of a subject matter expert in this regard, and he got on the phone with me, broke down some things for me. It was very interesting. He sent me an email with links. I'm going to include a lot of those links in the description. We had a delightful conversation, and we're going to have a longer format conversation at some point for Patreon. Real quick, a little bit of housekeeping, not a whole lot. I told you guys the Monkey Pants was coming from Kang Toys, and it's obviously going to be coming. We still haven't seen the combined mode. Don't know what to tell you about that. Sit Down Saturday last week, some people pointed out that MMC apparently did a Nightbird remake of the RC. Well, I'm not even sure if I remember that, so my bad on that. Should have known better than for giving Takara credit for creating a space, I guess. I want to say there was something else I want to talk about that, but I can't remember, so we'll just move on. Then there was the Nero. A lot of people saying that the transformation doesn't suck. It's subjective, right? You might like hitting your hand with a hammer. Might be your thing. It's not my thing. It's in my top 5 worst transformations of all time. And when I say worst, I mean experience-wise. It's a horrific experience. And also, don't be confused, I still think it's impressive in its own right. Then there was also the Cup review. I'm not sure if everybody got how I feel about that from looking at the comments, but this is the best way I can say it in 20 seconds. It has all of the right ingredients to be good. They just took it out of the oven too early. The chef made something good, put it in the oven, put a bad timer on the oven, and it beeped early, and they brought it out, and as a result, it just feels unfinished. And I think that's it. So with that, let's go ahead and get into this. Now, we've talked about a lot of things leading up to this, and I'm grateful that some of this information found its way to me, because we've been kind of tiptoeing around it without really knowing the space, just trying to see, is it the retailers, is it the companies, and a lot about that didn't sit right with me on either end. With the exception of some of the Fans Toys re-releases and stuff, that makes sense to me why they would just inflate the prices. But like when we talked about it with the Robot Paradise Soundwave and all of that, I remember saying here specifically that the markup on this stuff doesn't seem unreasonable. So why is it? And then we speculated on why. But perhaps we have a little bit more information now, and perhaps that information makes a whole lot more sense. So it breaks down into 3 categories. Category 1 is the cost of materials. And this gets a little bit complicated, but it's also less complicated than it may be seen, because it really does come down to supply and demand at the end of the day. If you live in the States, let's take it to something that a lot of my viewership can relate to. What's been happening with the housing market recently? It's been soaring through the roof. Why? Because not many houses are getting built anymore. Why? Twofold. One, in the past year and a half, we have faced what has become known as an unprecedented event. I'm going to leave the name of that event out. You know what event I'm talking about. I will be calling it the Bud Ice from here on out, because when I call it its proper name, YouTube sometimes flags my videos and takes them down or demonetizes them. But it has been an unprecedented event, and due to the restrictions that have been placed on us, there hasn't been as much lumber work being done. And as a result, we haven't had a whole ton of lumber. There's also been restrictions on people in workforces and how much people in a given workforce can exist within a given space and all of those things. As a result, not as many houses are being built, in part because of the restrictions of the workforce, in part because of the cost of lumber, and as a result, the prices for available houses already built that are being sold skyrockets. I can tell you the cost of houses went up in my neighborhood probably a good 30%, just as an example. Now, the same thing is happening in China. Places where materials are being obtained or produced is restricted due to capacity limitations on the workforce. And as a result, those restrictions are carrying over into production, because the capacity restrictions are also placed on the production facilities. And now, of course, we see this with our toys, but we see it everywhere if we look close enough. If anyone's looked into the car market recently, the same thing is happening. If anyone lives near a car lot, take a look. The inventory is not the same as what it once was. Now, this is for 2 reasons as well. 1, due to the things we just talked about regarding manufacturing, and 2, due to shortage of availability in regards to shipping space. And we're going to circle back to that. But according to the Plastic Exchange, the plastics going into your transformer are costing manufacturers approximately 180% more today than they were just 1 year ago. So that covers the cost of materials in regard to how it's going to impact the economy and impact the price. The second part of that we've already briefly touched on, which is labor. Labor is up 17% in August 2021 when compared to August 2020, in China specifically. And this is a graph from tradingeconomics.com showing you exactly what I'm talking about. Why is that? Capacity restrictions limiting a workforce. Now, there's something going on in the West that's also happening in the East, where people are not returning to work when things even begin to open up. Not in the same way. Some of this is probably due to fear, and then you could speculate on any other number of reasons. We have, for instance, a restaurant close to us that's offering a $250 signing bonus to come work at the restaurant in a table tending capacity. So not only are there restrictions in some work environments limiting the amount of people that can work there, but some people are just not returning to work. The workforce in 2021 is not the same as it was in 2020, nor is it the same as it was in 2019. Add on top of all of those components, we have an increased demand for all of it. Why, you ask? Because people have money. There's been 2 or 3 stimulus packages sent out. There's been extra money placed on unemployment, all of these things with all good intentions, but people have money. A lot of families didn't go on vacation due to traveling restrictions, due to Bud Ice rules and regulations. Family vacations were put on hold, postponed. People saved money, and now they have it. And they want what they want. And they have the extra money, so they're willing to spend it. Obviously, there's still people struggling. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking for the people that aren't. I know what it's like to struggle. And if you have, then you know that struggling people aren't buying PS5s. And hopefully not Masterpiece Transformers either. Which brings us to the third major component of this conversation, which is the actual shipping. This is where the money's really being made. I'm going to put up a chart so that you can get an idea of what we're talking about it while we're talking about it. First of all, there are 2 major types of shipping when we're talking about buying toys that are produced in China. There's ocean shipping, which you can see broken down on the left, and air freight shipping, which you can see broken down on the right. We're going to use Unicron as our example. With ocean shipping, which is using a freight container, Unicron takes up 26 inches by 26 inches by 26 inches for a big old box that contains 1 Unicron. In air freight, it's measured differently, which is in weight. And as you can see down at the bottom there, without the oversized charge. But don't be misled, there was definitely an oversized charge for Unicron. It just gets even more confusing, so we're leaving it out for the sake of discussion. Now, back to ocean shipping. In cubic feet, that takes up 10.17 cubic feet. So your average 40-foot container has 2,390 cubic feet available, which averages a total of 235 Unicron units per container. Now, a year ago, that would have cost to ship a container with them averaging $17.02 a unit. Today, it would cost you an average of $85 per unit. If we compare that to the air freight, even though it's measured in weight more so, we go from $319 to $848, from $27 to $72.93. And what you're thinking is, how could it be cheaper to ship it via air? And the truth is, it's not, because we're leaving out the oversized charge. But this is just to show you the increase. So if we compare that to Fans Toys Soar, a much smaller item to ship, we go from it being 54 cents a piece to $2.68 a piece, which is a 400% price increase for shipping. Which then brings us to the conversation that we got into recently regarding shipping and why some Eastern shippers are able to ship at a cheaper rate. And the truth of this is because of what they call consolidation. Meaning that ShowZ will partner, and I'm just using them as an example, with other companies that are all shipping from China to the States, and they're all going in on the same shipping container to fill the container to capacity to ship their stuff over. It'll get to America and get split up. Which is why sometimes when you get stuff from ShowZ or from other Eastern retailers, it might take you longer to actually get your item here in the States than if you went with a domestic retailer, because of how they break down their shipping expenses, which is smart. And if we look at those charts, it's also why the Unicron shipping took so long, because they sent it as slow as possible. Add on top of that, this is during the era where you had shipping containers on ships that were out at sea waiting for their chance to dock because of, once again, supply, demand, etc., etc. So that's why we're seeing price increases. Materials, labor, shipping. Follow the money. Special shout out to Scott once again. I hope that was beneficial. Once again, more information is coming on this in a more long formatted breakdown. It's coming. But I thought this was of merit to get out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.